This is the DYU T1. It is a foldable e-bike that's priced under $1,000, but is it worth your money? It's Rob B360. Last couple of weeks I tested the DYU T1 e-bike. It's a 20-inch foldable e-bike with a pedal assist torque sensor and a nice and clean seamless design because it has an aluminium alloy frame that doesn't have any weld marks. It has the following measurements and weight you can see on screen, which makes it suitable for persons between the length of 155 centimeters to 200 centimeters. And as the DYU T1 is an e-bike, it also has a battery, which is a removable 18,650 lithium-ion battery. It also has a Shimano 7-speed transmission system, front and rear disc brakes, an adjustable seat, and a lot more. But these are just some basic specs, so if you want to see every single detailed specs of the DYU T1, I will leave a product link for you in the description to help you out. Just make sure to watch the video completely to make an informed decision if this e-bike is something for you. And if you want to help me out, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That would be super helpful. The DYU T1 comes in this massive box and contains the following: some tools to assemble the e-bike, some spare parts like the wheel and bike saddle, a manual, some small parts, and a spare key. And of course the DYU T1 e-bike itself. The assembly took some time but was pretty easy as the DYU T1 was pre-assembled for about 80 to 90%. Everything was nicely packed and protected, which I can definitely appreciate. And with the manual and included tools, the assembly process was a breeze. So the first thing I did was take it out to my garden and looked at the aesthetic and features. At first glance, the DYU T1 looks fantastic due to its matte paint finish and seamless design. I chose for the olive green model, but it's also available in steel gray. Besides that the DYU T1 looks amazing, you almost don't notice that it's a foldable e-bike, as it doesn't have any weld marks. And the folding feature was one of the main reasons I chose this DYU model, because you can easily store it in a small space or in the trunk of your car. The tires that DYU uses are ornate, which are pretty good and have a cross-country style tread to them. Speaking of the style, the rim is a tri-spoke style, which is easy to clean. Now the back of the DYU T1 has a rear hub motor of 250 watts, which will give you power limited up to 25 kilometers an hour. Then there's the pedal assist using a torque sensor that's located in the front crank, which is powered by battery that is locked in its place with a key. But it's also easy to remove the battery in case you want to charge it. Just turn the key and tilt up the battery or slide it back in when it's fully charged. Speaking of the battery, it has a capacity of 10 amp hours, which takes around 5 to 6 hours to fully charge. But the great thing about it is that you can charge the battery on the bike itself or take it out and charge it inside your home or at work. The handlebars are made out of alloy and ABS style plastic, so they do seem quite strong. Moving on to the brakes, they are 160mm mechanical disc brakes, which are cable pulled and not hydraulic, but they seem to be working pretty fine for me. I just needed to work them in for a bit. The front light was working just fine, nothing special about them. It does have a small reflector underneath it, and speaking of, each wheel has their own reflector on the side for safety. You also have a reflector on the back, but if you want to be extra safe, DYU included a battery-operated lamp, so that's pretty nice as well. The seat looks pretty good as well and has a nice padding to it. During my rides it was comfy and provided enough support. It also has a Shimano Tourney 7-speed gear system to make your rides a lot smoother. And it also has a chain protector around the front crank. So far, everything about the DYU T1 looks fine. A small improvement point would be the lack of a screen, as you can't see your speed or any other useful information, which would have been nice, but you do have a LED indicator on the left side, so you can get an idea how much battery life you have left. If you press this green power button for about 4 seconds, the LED turns on, and you can use your DYU T1 pedal assisted, which I will show you during the bike ride. But you can also ride the DYU T1 without the pedal assist by powering it off completely. Just hold the power button again for about 4 seconds. You also have a bell, which just works as intended. but these locked grips are really nice. On some other bikes they can be loose so they spin around, but having it being locked on the DYU T1 is definitely a plus. And they also look pretty good in my opinion. The lever brakes work fine. Of course, a cable pull isn't as smooth as a hydraulic system, but they still work fine as you would expect. Then we have the Shimano 7-gear system, which also works as intended, as I didn't have any issues with it during my test rides. That means I had no issues that it would jam or something like that, and the simple up and down levers aren't complicated to use. Then this secret right here is one of my personal favorite features. It's a push throttle that lets you ride the bike automatically without pedaling, which can be a lifesaver. I will explain the benefits and use cases of it during the bike ride, so make sure to stick around. Let's just first show you how to fold the e-bike. Just start with this handle on the side so you can move the handlebar downwards. Then push this handle right here so you can fold the DYU in the middle. And now you can easily store or transport the DYU T1, which is excellent. And if you want to set it up again, just do everything in reverse and you're good to go. And if you want to pause your bike ride or park your DYU T1, just use this kickstand right here. But let's take it out for a spin and see how the DYU T1 performs in real life. As mentioned, the DYU T1 is an e-bike with a pedal assist torque sensor. You can immediately notice this when you start pedaling. You get that extra boost at the beginning of your bike ride, but also during the ride itself. The top speed you can get is about 25 km an hour or 15.5 miles per hour, which seem quite accurate, but I can't say for sure, as there isn't a display to indicate your current speed. It would be nice to see the speed, the battery life, maybe the weather conditions or some other info on here. But you still get the LED power indicator, which at least gives you an idea of the power you have left. Charging the DYU T1 took about 5 to 6 hours for a full charge. And you can get a range for about 55 kilometers or around 34 miles according to DYU. Of course, there are a lot of factors that will influence this. For example, like climbing a hill or the weather conditions, but also when riding during a heavy wind or when it's freezing outside, which will deplete the battery a bit faster. However, I wouldn't recommend riding a bike while it's freezing, just out of safety. The ride itself on the DYU T1 felt pretty comfortable, as the shock of the seat gives you enough support. Also, my knees didn't touch the steer during the ride, which mostly happens when you are too tall for a bike or when you haven't set it up correctly. As mentioned, the average user length for the DYU T1 would be between 155 to 200 centimeters, and just for a reference, my length is around 180 centimeters. Getting back to the smoothness of the ride, I would say on average the effort on this e-bike is about 50-50, as you would do around 50% effort and the bike does the other 50%. Of course, you can change that with the Shimano 7-gear system, which could help you a bit when climbing a hill. And speaking of, the DYU T1 can climb hills around 15 degrees. And when you do climb a hill, the effort will also change to maybe around 60 to 40%. Switching gears was also really smooth, as they worked instantly without experiencing any jams. The same goes for the brakes, which I needed to brake in for a bit, but still felt quite reliable. And same goes for the kickstand, as I had no issues here. But as promised, I wanted to explain you some benefits of the full throttle system. But just a small reminder, always make sure to take some time to enjoy the scenery and maybe look at some animals, as they're quite beautiful. Now, the throttle system is optional, but it's my favorite feature. You just need to press it and it will provide power to the DYU T1 without you having to pedal. This can be a lifesaver on long stretches or when climbing a hill, so you can catch your breath and still move forward. It can also be handy to start your ride and then continue the ride while pedaling yourself. And when using the full throttle, the max speed will also be limited around 25 kilometers, well, maybe a bit over it, but it's hard to tell exactly. It's just important to know that this feature will drain your battery a bit faster. However, I believe it's totally worth using and it's an excellent feature on the DYU T1. So now that we've done some testing, what is my overall verdict about the DYU T1 and what does it cost? The DYU T1 is an incredibly cool folding e-bike for people who want something small and compact, easy to carry around and won't break the bank at a price below $1,000. but it's also a joy to look at. It's well built, gives a nice pedal assist or full throttle support, and gives a comfy ride with its long-lasting battery and cushy seat. The only small improvement would be the lack of an LCD display, but overall it's a blast to ride and I could definitely recommend it. If you want to buy the DYU T1, it's normally available at the price of $999, but there are often discounts going on which will drop the price significantly. So make sure to use my link in the description of this video. Also, what are your thoughts about the DYU T1? Let me know in the comments. And if this video was helpful to you and you want to see more tech content in the future, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel or click here to watch the next video. See you there!